My name is Todd Schliemann, and I'm with INEAD Architects. I'm a design partner there, and I was in charge of leading the design team for the project.
I'm Patrick Phillips. I'm the Provost and Senior Vice President, University of Oregon. And in the Knight campus, I was the first acting executive director, and I helped get the Knight campus started, including overseeing a lot of the aspects of the building design.
Darren Deely, Director of the Design and Construction Office. I acted as the project manager for the University of Oregon.
Dan Johnston, I'm with Hoffman Construction. I was the project manager and involved also in the pre-construction effort. I saw the project through on the cost side of things, all the way from pre-construction through completion.
I'm Moira Kilty, Chief of Staff in the Knight campus, and I was a member of the design and project team from inception to move-in.
Hi, my name is Jarrett Pelletier. I'm with INEAD Architects. I'm an associate principal there and senior designer on the project. I worked closely with Todd and everyone else here.
I'm Lena Naverson. I'm an architect at Bora Architects, and we were the executive architects partnered with INEAD on this project. During the design phase, I was responsible for coordinating much of the laboratory scope and also got to live through the project through the construction administration phase.
Yeah, I'm Dave Garski with Hoffman Construction. I'm the vice president and I was the project executive. I started in pre-con and I was able to follow the construction all the way through to completion.
Hi, I'm Amy Running with Bora Architects, a senior interior designer who collaborated with INEAD on the building design. I also spearheaded the furniture project for the process and a proud U of O alum.
My name's Brad Jenks, work with Hoffman Construction. I focus on the mechanical, electrical, plumbing scopes of the project, everything from making the utilities fit in the building to ultimately turning them on and making the building work.
I'm Beth Stormshack. I'm a faculty member in the College of Education, and I was a faculty member on the building user group for the Knight campus.
I think there's lots of threads of the design of the building. Mostly the hallmark of it was teamwork, and we had faculty who were involved in the user group, but also from the very beginning, it was the group of all the construction folks, the design architects, the U of O building and construction folks, all together, always in all the effort. And so I think that was a real feature of everything that we did. So the design really came together, I think probably as all architectural designs do, from the need, that is to define the scope and the case study. And that's where the user group was especially influential to bring in faculty from across campus. I think the most unusual aspect of this building is also the scariest aspect. We were building a building with no occupants, number one. And so we didn't actually have faculty who were going to be moving into the building. And we also didn't know exactly what the Knight campus research emphases were going to be. So what we had to do was design a building that was capable of essentially thinking about what the modern phase of research and innovation would be. And that was great. And that's why all the faculty could provide their perspectives on what they thought that was going to be. But then we just had to move from basic principles in order to implement that, rather than thinking about this person needs this many square feet for this particular project. So that was freeing, but also quite scary that we would build a building that no one wanted. And in the end, that's exactly the opposite of what happened. I think everybody's very excited by the building, but it didn't have to be that way. And so I'm very grateful for everyone's flexibility. And then the other big feature of this was that everybody practically on the project went on this big national tour, especially focusing in the Boston, Cambridge area and in the Bay Area, to look at other buildings and what was successful, what was not successful. So that allowed us to think about what other universities had done and research institutes, number one, but it also gave a great opportunity, again, from the construction folks to the architects to the faculty, to be in conversation with one another about what made sense, what didn't make sense, what worked, what we liked, what we didn't like. And so it was not only the inspiration from those tours, but the conversations that were inspired by those tours that then led us into the deeper conversation. And then the final aspect of this, of course, is the site itself was a major constraint and a point of inspiration. And we have this little peninsula of land between Franklin Boulevard and the mill race. And we had to figure out how to fill that peninsula in a way that was good, but also then took advantage of the mill race itself. And that led to a lot of creative decision making.
Another really important element in how the vision came together was the group stayed really true to the idea that the building needed to be important to the larger community beyond the university, and that really stayed with the vision all the way through. So all of those elements that Patrick, you mentioned about it and what was important to it in terms of being scientific in a university building were always elements in there, but it was also this idea that it was going to be a gateway into Eugene and important in the Oregon architectural design, and we kept that in there all the way. It's pretty interesting for us to do that all the way through.
I'm not a lab scientist, and so for me, what was really interesting and exciting was to learn about designing and building labs and what that would look like more from a multidisciplinary lens. How would we bring people across campus into this space to create more of a team science, which is one of our strengths at the University of Oregon. So I think that's in one way that I was able to contribute to the group, and also I really enjoyed just learning about what the building would look like to include all the different members of our community.
So we had faculty in the user group that spanned, those working with human subjects like Beth, but also physicists and chemists and biologists, people working in genome sciences. I think one of the first decisions we made that was critical, that again, one of these high risk ones was to go in with a clean room as a core aspect of the building. Again, very risky decision. Hopefully it'll all go great. But I was just wandering through the beautiful new building and ran across one of the new faculty members who we hired as a junior faculty. And I asked him, which part of the building, he said, how's the building? He's like, it's amazing. I can't even believe that I get to be in here. And I said, which part of the building is most important for you for supporting your work? And he said, the clean room. And I said, okay, that worked. That was a decision that made it possible for this particular, brilliant young faculty member to come to the University of Oregon. And again, it wasn't known, but that was a conversation that arose from my colleagues in chemistry and their recognition that this was something that the University of Oregon didn't have. Not only that, as Moira and I did research, we found that there was no space like this in all of the Oregon, and that's kind of surprised us. And so it was a great opportunity for us to do something that was unique and also make it available to the state. I think, as Moira already emphasized, we can think at all these different scales of what it is to make an impact.
This idea of form follows function is an idea that's been around architecture for a while, but in this case, I would say that form was following mission, because from the very beginning of this project, I think even when we went to the interview, the Knight campus mission was so clear, so passionate, so articulate that it was a remarkable experience. Everyone was engaged in accelerating scientific impact. I mean, even more, they wanted to work together. The mission was really wonderful. It was close to my heart too, because all architects want to make a difference in the world, but here we met a kindred spirit. The sort of idea of different people working together, I think form follows mission in this case.
The transparency of the building is noticeable from the moment you start occupying the building. I have had people stalking me from the 4th floor down on the 1st floor when I'm standing having a conversation on the connector. People coming down and saying, I saw you through the window and I needed to talk to you. I mean, it really works. The function is, the form actually does drive the function up here.
I just remember when we were, remember all those design explorations that we looked at early on, and trying to fit the building on the site was a challenge. And I think, this idea of form follows function really makes sense, because the way that we solved that problem was by folding the buildings into each other and making this sort of clasped hand in how the buildings relate to one another, and that feeds into this mission of a community and sort of knowing where your neighbors are and transparency. So that was kind of, I think, a perfect way to describe how the form followed the need or the function of building.
I totally agree with you, Jarrett. That was, we were struggling a little bit through the design to come up with the right solution. Once we found the clasped hands concept, it just totally clicked and it served the mission perfectly. And, the design construction team just had this mission to execute that ideal concept.
I think the space that it created in the middle, the courtyard space, I think is truly a unique aspect for a research building, especially in this area. And I think it's going to be the sort of central heart to the place that really brings people together and allows them to celebrate collaboration in a new way.
The mission of the night campus is literally to change the world, and obviously for the good. And there's no single individual that is going to do that. It is an entire team effort. It's a community to make a difference. And so that was the central design theme, is what is the community? How can we bring people together? One of the things, talking back at our tour, we looked at buildings, and I've been in many buildings where the faculty are in one tower and the labs are in another tower, because that's cheaper to do, because you have an office tower and you have a lab tower. And but that's not the way that people should be working together. We want everyone kind of inspiration and perspiration side by side every moment of the day. And so that's really important. I'd love to hear from the architects about the curtain wall, because that was another whole to do, I got to say. So.
Jared,
For sure.
Jared,
Well, I think
yours.
I think I just want to go back to maybe one of our earlier conversations. I think one of the most, exciting conversations that we all had together when we were sort of talking in the visioning sessions about what makes this place really special, what makes Oregon really unique, what makes the University of Oregon unique, and how can we embed those characteristics in the building. And I think the one massive takeaway that we took was just the place is so beautiful. The landscape is so beautiful, and the light, and so really trying to infuse the building with as much of that became a design driver. Views, the labs where you sort of look into the trees of the mill race, where you see the distant mountains. It just bringing the outside inside was a massive goal, and the facade was helpful in that. Thinking again about form following function, the design of the screen allows us to have more vision, more vision windows on the interior, because it provides shading and it provides some glare control, in addition to being sort of adding to the kind of iconic character of the place. One of the things that struck me, having been there very recently, Patrick, I'm sorry I missed you, was that how the building's facade changes throughout the day. The morning, the midday, when a cloud comes over, it's just the light play on the facade and through the building is just, it transcends and takes you some other place. It's really quite effective.
That was one of the big surprises when we had that initial mock-up, was just how beautifully it reflected the sky. So it's just additional beauty layered on that we had exactly expected like that.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of another trip that we took. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I'm sorry, Patrick. I just wanted to add, it's not just beautiful, but from an engineering standpoint, that curtain wall is amazing. Something like that, we've done a couple of those, and usually it takes a bunch of steel and it's all supported from the ground. This whole thing's supported from the roof of the building, and it's hanging there, and then it has these, dainty, I guess when you see it all in perspective, tiebacks to the building, which just make it even more impressive. And just from an engineering standpoint, it's just a thing of beauty.
And I think even the custom frit that we designed together, the duck DNA pattern for the seminar room was really, I mean, for me, that was an aha moment too, when Patrick, you brought it up. That was like, of course, we have to make the pattern be a duck DNA. I mean, what else would you do? And it's so cool. It's so cool.
It's really a huge team effort. It is a very ambitious goal to achieve LEED certification on a complex lab building, as we are currently tracking. So it was a big effort to get everyone on board, and a lot of work by our engineers to create a very efficient building from an energy and water standpoint. And the restoration of the mill race was really inspirational and a great story that we can take away from this looking back. But I have to give a great hand to ENIAD for really incorporating so many biophilic design features into the building. That is one innovation LEED credit point that we got, but I think that it really just integrated all these wonderful design features about making the building a native to Oregon and making it a really inspiring place for researchers. So that was one of the really interesting pieces to pull together for the LEED certification process.
As Lena mentioned, LEED Gold is a big achievement for a research building. Research buildings are very difficult to get a high degree of sustainability because they use so much energy. And the team had to work really hard, and we collaborated with the University of Oregon, their energy modelers, to sort of in a live way, sort of work back and forth and put glass where we needed glass, put better insulation where we needed better insulation. Think about the design of the bridge, how we condition it, perfecting all of those pieces of the puzzle, which really drove the energy performance. But then I wanted to add to what Lena was saying about the materials. I think that really goes to the idea of using products that are local. We knew that we wanted to use wood. We knew that we wanted to use cross-laminated timber in the building because it was local, it was an innovation, something that hadn't been done before. And I think as you experience the building, it's those sort of warm touches of natural materials and other biophilic elements that really make you feel comfortable. And I think that's what it all is about, is sort of making the place feel really good, feel really comfortable, feel like a place you want to go to work every day and discover something new.
We focused a lot on wood in this space, not only the cross-laminated timber, but also using regional species for other wood elements, such as wall paneling and ceiling elements in some of the major classroom spaces, and even in the seminar room that some of us are joining from here on this call. Those were actually fabricated literally down the street in Springfield, just miles away. We had the opportunity to do some tours and work really close with those fabricators during the process, and really came up with some unique solutions that not only included those warm materials as part of the design, created some interesting forms and geometry to really add some character and spatial quality to the environment, but they also really kind of capture a spirit and an essence that goes beyond the building and then functions. So they provide access where it's needed, they incorporate lighting and all of those really complicated things that need to happen in these high performing classroom environments.
Well, I think what's interesting in the process, and one thing that I really love being a contractor, is there's a point in time when the vision gets down to pen and paper, and actually we get handed a set of drawings and we're asked to build it. And I think the part that I really love about construction in this job, as hard as it was, it's fascinating that this thing shows up in a truck after truck after truck, and hundreds of trucks get delivered piece by piece. And then we have hundreds and hundreds of craft workers that put this thing together over the years. And it's watching that come together and the coordination that it takes to order the materials and get them delivered to site and actually get them to fit. and build something that is this complicated is just amazing to watch the team pull this off and bring it together. And it's just something about construction that's really fun to see and be part of. And I think the teamwork that it took to put this together from start to finish really is what really culminates the success of the building. And that's for me is what makes construction so much fun.
I think I would jump on the teamwork side of what Dave had to say, because I think that was really the incredible experience on this project was the team from the very beginning and the trips that we took and working together throughout this project with this group of people was really one of the best experiences I've had in the design and construction industry that I've been in for 30 years. And it was a great group of people making decisions, a great group of people putting the design together and constructing the project. And it was a very difficult project, a lot of interesting shapes and forms coming together, things that hadn't been done before, a lot of time set in meetings from the design side all the way through the construction side, really working through the details of how do you put this thing together and how do you keep the glass facade on this thing in the air, hanging it versus not, from a perspective of previous ways of doing these kinds of curtain walls. So it was really, really a good experience working with the team, because it really is a team project that put this thing in the air.
There's so many unique elements. The bridge is so unique. The atrium is unique. The mill race is unique. The transparency, the connecting bridge. Most projects have one or two elements like that. This one's got 4 or 5. But I think where we've all lived the last 8 months has been extremely challenging from everything we've talked about. COVID has changed our environment as builders of how we build and the processes and procedures we have to do to keep people safe. We had the fires. We have other elements that really made things very complicated and difficult. And everybody that leaned into those issues and didn't back away from them is why we're where we are today. And that took everybody to get through it. And we're still dealing with those issues. But nobody would ever guess when we started this project that this is how we'd be ending it with these type of challenges. And there is a lot of compliments and shout outs that need to go to our team members like Brad and Mike and others that are in the field that are having to deal with this day in and day out. And Darren and his team that's really helped us kind of get through these issues together and really fight through the opportunities and how we can still make this successful.
And Dave, I just also want to add to that. I mean, not just the field team, but you know, the field team and beyond, our subcontracting partners. You know, we talked about it with the curtain wall, and we had some very patient subcontracting partners in Toronto that, you know, were with us every step of the way when we were going through all the frits and all the different aspects of the cascading wall. But then when it came down to COVID and when it came down to the wildfires and it came down to, you know, extended excavation from a flood, you know, we had guys with us every step of the way, great partnerships, you know, here in the Northwest, and obviously guys that came in from out of town to help us out on this project. And can't say enough about the team that we had as subcontractors, and obviously the design team's all part of this. I mean, they were, you know, answering questions for us every step of the way.
One of the biggest challenges that we had, you know, the only in custom buildings like this, the only parts that are common or standard, it really comes down to just the size of the pipe, the size of the wire, things like that. You know, we started out this project, it was a bunch of 2-dimensional drawings. We had a box, we knew how to fit it in. We knew we had to fit all of our piping into, and we knew we had to get it from A to B. And so that was one of our biggest challenges, was working with all of the teams. And you know, that starts on the very beginning of the project. And one of the things that worked really well here was everybody constantly collaborating, so we could start taking all those common pieces and making them custom. We had teams all over the Northwest that would fabricate pipe and ship it here to the job site, and equipment and machinery, and it really turned out spectacular.
Well, I was just thinking about how beautiful this is when I walked into it today, and of course, right now, it's not at capacity. There are a few people working, but it can't be at capacity right now. And what I'm excited about is when we're through this time and all of our students are here engaged in learning and engaged in science and innovation, I think it's going to be a wonderful venue for the university, and I'm really looking forward to that.
So there are lots of things to be proud of on this building, but one thing that I always look back and I think about the process, and what I enjoyed the most out of the process was actually the very clear direction and decisiveness of the U of O team. that led us to this design and final outcome. And looking forward and thinking about its impact on research and the university, how it's really going to affect these researchers, the amazing research spaces, collaborative spaces, and environments for people to work together, to think and innovate, and to bring people from outside the university, some of the innovation spaces. Those spaces are really going to transform the programs and research that the university does in the future, which is tremendous and exciting.
Yeah, what I'm most proud of is creating a real environment for this excellent science to occur. You know, it's taking all these parts and pieces and making the whole system run as one unit.
I'm excited, and I was sort of excited to see it a little bit in person, you know, this kind of like lightness that you feel when you come into the building. It's both the facade and all of the details and the light, but it's kind of makes me think about how lightning fast discoveries are going to happen here, because the building is so facile and the people in it are so facile. We always talked about that idea of shifting, changing directions, being really flexible, and I'm really excited to see that happen.
To me, you know, the beauty, the elegance, all of those things were central guiding principles, but it's really this future that is important. I'm very dedicated not only to building the future of the University of Oregon, but for the state of Oregon. I care quite a bit about this state. And I think that we have achieved something that doesn't exist in Oregon. It certainly doesn't exist at the University of Oregon. I think we pointed a way towards a future that is very different, both for the university and for the state. And I think along the way, we achieved something even greater than maybe we thought. And I think we have created an exemplar of a way science building can be at a national scale. And I look forward to seeing the visitors coming to us as we went to their buildings to explore what's going on.
Hi, I'm Eugene Mayor Lucy Vinnis. Congratulations on the opening of the Knight campus. The startups and innovation this campus produces will positively impact our community for years to come. The building is magnificent, and the Sky Bridge across Franklin Boulevard is an iconic landmark. Can you tell us about the inspiration for its design and the connectivity and partnership it represents?
You know, I was pretty insistent that this bridge not just be perfunctory. The architects brought a bunch of designs, and it was clear as soon as they brought the design for this bridge that we built, this is the one. And then we thought, oh, it's going to cost a fortune. In the end, it was just cost the same as all the other bridges. And so that was another moment when everything worked. The design of the bridge worked. We didn't have to have a separate pillar and negotiate with the bus transit district. We had all these kinds of things. And it not only worked, but it is now the gateway to the University of Oregon is appropriate for the Knight campus being the gateway to the future.